Hi, I'm Ivana.
I'm Lana, and this is Real Estate Tips with SNL. Today, Ivana, we have a guest host and a guest speaker. I am super thrilled. Ivana, you and I work together at the Coldwell Banker office in Leominster.
Yes.
So welcome.
Thank you. I'm very excited.
Yes. And do you want to introduce our guest?
Yes, I'm very excited to have Lynn Toomey here. Thank you for coming. Thank you for allowing me to be the first one to take a stab at it. So I'm excited.
Good.
Thanks. Thank you. Welcome.
And tell us what you're going to talk to us about today. I know it's a little bit of retirement, maybe finance, maybe
Real
downsizing,
estate.
maybe, yes.
Yeah. So I co-own a financial advisory practice located in Leominster, Mass. with my significant other, life partner, whatever you want to call him. His name's Brian Saranovitz. He's actually from the area, so people watching this may be familiar with Brian. But so we are partners in the practice called Your Retirement Advisor. We focus on retirement planning for people probably 50 to 60, 70, 80. People are living longer. So, we work with all ages. We have 20-somethings and 30-somethings also. So we've been doing that for about a decade.
Wow.
Seen it all, done it all. We work with people all across the country, as well as right here in the Leominster, Westminster, Fitchburg area.
Yep.
And it's a blast. We have a lot of fun doing it, just helping people figure out how to take everything that they've accumulated, whether it's their home, whether it's their 401k, figuring out their Social Security, how to create an income for life. At the end of the day, that's the bottom line. And, interestingly enough, there's ways that you can leverage your home to help you in retirement if you plan to stay in your home, or, maybe you're going to sell your home and you want to use the assets in the home to do something else. So lots of stuff.
So it sounds like you have like a plan set up.
Oh,
like when people call you, it's not just like, hey, help us to retire, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because I always think of retirement as like you have to have savings and you have to have like, all the stuff in stocks and whatever, mutual funds.
Right.
But it sounds like what you are coming across with is actually a plan.
100%. It's all about the plan. I don't think in life you can get much accomplished without a plan. So we believe that preparation, education, understanding what you have, what you need, what your gaps are is key. And that is the first step in planning. And then you're going to work either on your own if you want to DIY it, or with a retirement advisor, financial advisor, to figure out what are all the elements of the plan. Because people think, I was talking to a woman actually probably 2 years ago, and she's like, well, I have a 401k and I have my house, I'm all set. And I'm like, well, a 401k is a retirement plan.
Yes.
But it's not your plan. That's just one component of your plan, especially when you approach retirement, because you have so many things going on. So, you could be downsizing. You might be selling the big home and downsizing to something small. You might be, okay, I've got my home, I want to downsize, but I also want to have a vacation home up in New Hampshire. That's just one component. But then you've got your 401k or your IRA monies, or maybe you have a brokerage account where you have some stocks in Google or whatever.
Right.
But then there's other factors that come into it as we approach retirement age, traditional retirement age. Social Security starts at 62. You might not want to take Social Security at 62. It might not be the best decision for you financially. Long-term care, that's huge, right? Who's going to take care of me when I'm old and unable to take care of myself? Am I going to go into a home? Am I going to age in place? There's Medicare. Medicare is a huge issue. Like, okay, 65, I get Medicare. How do I choose? Medicare is super complex. How do I choose Medicare?
You help people choose?
Oh, yeah.
I've had my coworkers saying, wait till you get to 65. It's a cluster.
Now, I don't know if it's just because I'm a millennial and we just really, I haven't thought that far in my life yet, to be honest. But, as I get older, I get more and more like, I have to plan for the future, especially being in real estate. You're sale to sale. So at the end of the day, like your savings, what you've got for assets is your cushion unless you have a 401k, a plan set up. And so I'm really intrigued by this like topic and wanting to know, other than just, looking into what you've put into in Social Security and Medicare, when do you feel is like the best time to be looking into your retirement plan?
When you first get a job.
Oh, I'm already behind that.
Yeah. No, I actually have twins that are in college, and they've been around this financial stuff for a long time. Even before I got into the industry, I was in high tech marketing and with companies that went public. And so they've always been exposed to the financial markets and what's going on. But they're like, Mom, we got to get our Roth IRAs started. So I always say to a young person, retirement planning is different depending upon your age, right? In your 20s, you do this, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Yeah. There's a different plan for every decade, right? But I always say to people, young people, like as soon as you get a job, number one priority is to pay yourself first. Start 15%, like just take it out. Like just pretend that your income is 15% less. Put that 15% in because there's something called compound interest. Einstein called it the ninth wonder of the world, because when you put in consistently starting at 20 years old, by the time you're 60, obviously, depending upon what you put in, you could have $1 million.
Wow,
pretty quickly. I want to say pretty quickly. I think with millennials this day and age, there's issues, right? Real estate is expensive. Yes. Cost of living, hopefully this isn't a political discussion, but Trump has promised to help bring down the cost of goods and the cost of living. Mm-hmm. It is challenging, but I think every generation has its challenges. But I would start there, because the earlier you can save and be consistent, the better off you'll be in the future. So I always say that to younger people, 20, first job, 15% off the top. 100%.
It's funny that you're saying that, because I remember buyers changing. Like my younger buyers that wanted to buy, this is a couple years back, they didn't have any savings at all.
Right.
They're coming to the table to buy a house with nothing in a savings account. I remember lenders telling me, is this another one that doesn't have any savings? And I'm like, how do you function in the real world without a savings account?
Right.
It's scary.
Right.
It's scary, but it's also something I think my generation's used to. We're very used to not having those funds.
Why is that?
I'm not sure. I'm really
Were you
not.
taught not to save money?
No, it's just more so I think, as young as I can remember talking about gas prices, and things are always just kind of escalating. So you're always just kind of going with where things were week by week, or, and I'm now talking, a few years back. I remember myself buying my first home. I had very little, we almost took out a loan to pay back to then just have something with substance to put down. But I've also noticed that a few years ago was people buying, a starter home, and your first home is a starter home, and I can level up later. Yeah. I'm noticing now a lot of people, in that younger crowd are looking for their forever home. They're like, I don't have time to escalate this. I got to pick and sit and gain my equity there.
True.
And I think that's coming down to that thought of, what am I going to do when I'm older? I need to have something to live in. A lot of my clients are looking at first floor housing, and they're completely, bodily abled, young 27-year-olds, because they're thinking about
the future.
Yeah.
I always would say, and I didn't take this advice because I actually didn't hear it from my parents, but my advice to young people is to buy like a 2-family, 3-family home, live in one side. Yeah, it might not be your dream location, but eventually you can move out and it can be a rental property, because that is another source of income, right? It's all about income, right? It's all about cash flow, actually. Life is about cash flow and managing your cash flow, having your income and your expenses, and whatever you have left is your cash flow. I think one of the other most important things that people can do, and I almost said women only because I have another platform that I created called Her Retirement, where I focus on educating women about money, life, and retirement, because so many women have extra challenges, which we could have a whole separate conversation about those extra challenges.
For sure.
But is investing in your skills, like whether it's education, whether it's a trade, whatever it is, investing in yourself and making yourself marketable and employable is probably the most important thing. And I think the other thing is just behavior, because I think a lot of people, our society is so much more prosperous. I don't have the numbers in my head right now, but our society is so much more prosperous than we were like in the 1800s and 1900s.
Sure.
We've never been more prosperous in history. But the issue is it's not always what we make, it's what we spend. That's the issue.
Very true.
So reeling in your spending habits, but that gets down to behavior. And human behavior is like, we want it now.
Yeah.
And that's why we put it on the credit card and then we pay 29% interest and we just screw ourselves by getting in so over our head because we want it now. But then we have all this marketing and it's like, buy.
Right.
You know, back in was it in the 90s, I think, when the banks were just like giving out loans, mortgage loans like candy, right? So it's just, we're part of this machine, this marketing machine that's saying, buy, and we have human behavior. So that's where people get in trouble, is that discipline to say, okay, I got to save, I got to reduce my spending. I'm not going to put it on a credit card unless it's an emergency or I can pay it off every single month.
Now, in your plans, whether they be, you know, closer to retirement or, you know, quite a bit away, do you also incorporate that in any of your planning, those spending habits, those ways to kind of keep your money while you have it kind of thing?
Yeah. So my partner, Brian, is a registered licensed investment advisor. He's also insurance licensed. So he's been doing this. I was speaking in a class earlier today and I said, he's been doing it 40 years. And he's like, nope, 39. So I'm like, okay, 39, whatever. But he's actually always been focused on managing people's investments as an investment advisor and then working with them on insurance, whether that be life insurance or long-term care insurance, annuities, which are like a guaranteed insurance-based product that gives you a guaranteed income. So he's been investment insurance licensed, and a lot of his clients, I would say, are mass affluent middle Americans, right? He doesn't work with high net worth, but he doesn't have minimums either. You know, one of the kids he used to coach, she got her first job. She came to him. She said, "Can you help me with my investment?" So he works with her. So he'll work with younger people also. But he's recently hired, or we've recently hired 2 certified financial planners, CFPs, and they get more into the personal finance space where they will work with someone on their budget. Or I was talking with a woman actually yesterday. She got divorced later in life. She has the house. It's stuffed with stuff. She's in New Jersey. Stuffed with stuff. She has to sell by next year according to her divorce agreement. And she's just like, what do I do? Like, I don't know where to live. I don't know what I'm going to pay for capital gains. I don't know what, when I relocate, what my budget should be. So I introduced her to one of our CFPs who will really do what I call a personal financial plan, because she's got a special needs son. Like, she just has all this extra. She doesn't have a trust or a will. So she needs a complete, what I would call a personal financial officer, right? You have financial officers of companies. Some people really need a personal financial officer. So a certified financial planner is really skilled and trained in that personal finance space. At the same time, they can do investments and insurance also. Brian just didn't ever really want to do that. He's really an investment guy. He loves investments. He likes working with insurance. And now what he's incorporated, we renamed his company to Your Retirement Advisor like 12 years ago, because he really wanted to focus on that phase of life. Just helping people figure out, okay, I have $500,000, I have $1 million, I have $2 million saved. How do I create a retirement paycheck from that?
Right. Like, where do I draw from?
Where do I draw from? When do I draw from it? How do I draw from it and not pay a crap ton of taxes?
Yes. Because
the higher net worth you are, the more exposed you are to taxes. So I mentioned to you opening a Roth IRA. That is, you're not going to pay taxes on that down the road in retirement.
Right.
But you're not going to get a tax break up front like you would with a 401k, because 401ks, 403bs, those are tax deferred, which means you're going in a relationship with Uncle Sam and saying, I'm going to put this money in tax-free now, but down the road in retirement, I'm going to pay you my taxes. So we call it tax diversification. So you want to have, if you work for yourself, a SEP IRA or a solo 401k, or you work for a company, you have a 401k or maybe you have a traditional IRA, but you should also have things like the Roth so that you have your money in different tax buckets.
Gotcha.
That's one of the keys, one of the strategies that when you work with a financial advisor, he or she should be able to explain these things to you and watch out for your best interest. Of course, you can also read books, and figure it out on your own. But
I'd rather be told.
And I also take this to heart. We interview all different, folks in all different companies. And, I was talking to a designer who designs kitchens, right? But it all comes down to personality and what you need personally, right? So I think if you're hiring the person that can put the plan for you personally, not for generically a 20, 30-year-old, 40-year-old,
right.
They're looking at you, you're going to get the best benefit out of it for you.
Yep.
I want to just step back a little bit. You mentioned something about real estate and what do you do with it? So do you have, so one of the ones you just said was the divorcee that was going through, what do I do with it? So do you have a lot of people that are in this position where they've had their home for 30, plus years? That was the home that they're going to have forever. And now they're like, oh, we're going to downsize. So what do they do with that money?
Yeah.
I mean, what is the options for that?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that we deal with is gray divorce, which is divorce over the age of 50. And it's 3 times the rate of other divorce rates in the country. So a lot of people retire and they're like, I'm not looking at this.
They're like, oh my gosh, I hate this guy.
Yeah.
I just realized it now that all my kids are out. I'm done working. Get me out of this house.
Who are you?
Oh yeah. When my last 2 went off to college, they found me crying in my room one night and they're like, what's up, Mom? And I'm like, I'm going to be here alone with him.
Oh,
It was a joke.
I know.
They made me laugh. I made them laugh.
Yeah.
But I was kind of serious because, it's a big transition. So whether you're empty nester, getting divorced, widowhood, the average age of a widow is 59.
What? That's the average age?
Yes, ma'am. I'm like, it's crazy. And I have 2 friends that lost husbands at 59 in the last few years. So, and what happens is, there's a couple different scenarios. So in divorce, a lot of times women will go in the divorce agreement, they'll go for the home.
Right.
It can sometimes be a mistake to do that because the 401k could end up being worth a lot more, depending upon the market. It's been crazy with real estate. But that's one thing we caution women is just don't try to talk to a financial planner before you sign that agreement because you could be screwing yourself. But let's assume you end up with the home. What happens oftentimes with women is they end up with the home. And in the case of this woman in New Jersey, maintenance, just taking care of it. She thought the house was worth like $300,000. I looked it up on Zillow while I was talking to her and I'm like, you're 30 minutes from Manhattan. Like it's worth a lot more than that. Anyway, it's like, what do I do? So in her situation, she doesn't really want to stay in the home. It was her marital home, 30 years. But she's like, where do I go? What do I do? Like my son's in Texas, my other son's special needs. So I was brainstorming with her. I'm like, Florida, senior community. She wants friends. She wants social interactions because social interactions are the number one determinant of longevity, believe it or not.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, that's why, we're buddies because we need that social interaction. But so just trying to figure out, she wants to retire next year. She has to sell her house next year. And that's almost the worst combination. I was trying to relocate, sell, and retire at the same time. That can be a recipe for disaster, especially if you don't have a lot of support. So I was trying to encourage her to stay working, try to, explore relocation. There's a lot of strategies behind that, but there's lots of things you can do with the proceeds from your home. Obviously you can downsize, you can choose to rent. A lot of those buy rent decisions our CFPs help people make is really based on where you want to live, what you're going to be able to generate for income. So let's say someone has $500,000 in a 401k plus the proceeds from their house. So we always say it's we put it all into this. We have a retirement planning software that helps us because we have technology today that can do those projections and look at taxes, look at inflation.
Oh, right.
Look at market volatility.
Yep. Keep
your money invested in the market. The market goes up and down. If you retire in a down market, that's not so good. So anyway, we have this software that can help us make some of those decisions. But I always say to people, you really need to think about what you want lifestyle wise.
Mm-hmm.
Money's just a tool. You really need to understand what your values are, what your priorities, what kind of life do you want?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to live 5 minutes from a mountain so you can ski and hike, or on a lake or near a lake, or in a retirement community where you drive golf carts around and play pickleball and shuffleboard? Or are you going to live in the in-law apartment in your kid's house and take care of grandkids? So I always say to people, before you make the decision to sell or downsize or relocate, try to think about what lifestyle you want, and then figure out what you have for finances that can help you live that life. You may have to cut back. You may need to make some changes. So it's kind of like a back and forth. Okay, I want to do this. Do I have the money? Nope. Okay, I got to do this. Then, so it's kind of like some experiments, right?
Right.
Just have to run the numbers and see where everything falls out.
I love that you brought up the lifestyle, because that's what I'm all about when I'm talking to my clients anyways. What is your lifestyle? I actually don't even focus on the house so much, because the house you're going to find, right?
Yeah.
We're going to find you a home. But is it going to fit what your lifestyle is? Are you an outdoors person? Are you a community person? Are you, you need to be next to the highway because
you host.
Exactly.
What are you going to use your home for?
Exactly.
That's
family. Yep.
And it's sometimes it's hindsight for them. And it's probably why we still have jobs, is being able to say, well, you're talking about Thanksgivings and you're talking about going to parties on the weekends where we're moving our schedule around. Like, are you sure you don't want an open floor plan, or is this going to fit your lifestyle? And that's ultimately what keeps people in their house longer, is it fitting their lifestyle. So I love that your plans seem to really fit around an individual versus, like you were saying, textbook across the board. This is what anybody at the age of 50 should be looking at.
Yeah. I mean, so many people have their money with the big financial companies, Fidelity, Vanguard, which is great. And they've probably done a great job growing your assets. Right. But that person's not going to sit with you and say, well, do you want to age in place? Okay, if you want to age in place, look at a ranch, or where do you want to live? Or what do you want to leave your kids for a legacy? What about your trust? What about your will? So that's one of the values, is that when you work with a company like our company, we truly look at the whole picture, because money, lifestyle, I always say health, wealth, happiness is all tied together. It's very tied together. I always give people like some relocation tips for people that say, like, we want to just get out of Dodge. Like, we're sick of the winters in New Hampshire, or, we're sick of the heat in Florida, whatever. Somebody's always, thinking about where else they can go. So I always say you need to decide if this is like your forever home, and is it going to suit those needs for your future. So I recently, within the last couple of years, relocated to Westminster, and I had a giant 4,200 square foot home. And there was plenty of space to have like a first floor bedroom.
Almost too much.
But I was like, what am I going to do with the rest of this space and the cost? So I decided to downsize to a ranch home, and it's an aging in place home, wide hallways. Got to work on the cabinets. Cabinets are a little high, but it's a good home for that future, because I was like, I need to think about these things, right? I want to be close to the activities, healthcare, right? I have clients that live in the middle of nowhere.
Where's
and I
healthcare?
get like, where's their healthcare, right? So there's all these factors that have to be taken into consideration, because it's a big decision, right?
Yeah, it's funny when you say that, because I remember having clients too, and they're like, I need 1 hour from doctors, hospitals, everything. I'm like, 1 hour? That seems so far away. But if you're used to being Timbuktu, but that's right. I mean, that's, again, a lifestyle. And that's why I'm always having conversations with my clients, because I think that's first and foremost the most important thing. It's really fascinating to think that I always thought retirement being it's about money. Do you believe that you need to have a legacy left for your children all the time? Because hear me out. I'm working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And what? I have to have it saved for my kid? Don't get me wrong. I love my kid. And, fine. You want it all. You can't bury yourself with it, right? You can't take it with you.
Right.
But like, I would like to enjoy it to be able to go like on vacations together and do anything. But really, is the legacy for your kids? Is it really built for that?
Yeah, well, I mentioned values, right? So that's one of the value exercises. And that's one of the things we talk to people. We say, okay, at this point, you're going to have $1 million left over, because when you're drawing down your assets, you're drawing them down. But if they're properly invested, they're going to be growing at the same time, right? So potentially drawing down, you could still have money left over at the end. And it's a huge spectrum. I hear people that say, I'm spending every single red cent, and my kids are on their own because they're okay.
Yeah.
Right.
In the case of my significant other, he has one child, one son that needs some legacy. He's going to need some money. And this woman with special needs, she wants to leave something to that child. The other child's all set. But for me personally, I kind of have this hybrid approach where I'm like, I want to make sure my needs are met.
Yes.
So I'm going to decide what my lifestyle, what my expenses will be. And one quick note is women way underestimate the healthcare expenses in retirement. So I want to make sure my healthcare is covered. Who's going to take care of me? So my kids don't have to take care of me, on and on and on. But I think the important point is that I'm more of a hybrid. And I've seen people say, no, I want to leave $1 million to my kids. I always say to people, there's a way to do both. You can actually spend all your kids' inheritance, just get them a life insurance policy, right? And then I have other people that say, oh, I don't want to sell my home. I don't want to do a reverse mortgage, because that's another strategy to stay in your home, is to do a reverse mortgage. Creates an income stream in retirement. A lot of cash-strapped, income-strapped women can benefit from a reverse mortgage and stay in their home. But they're like, oh, I could lose my home. What about my kids? Like, your kids probably don't want to live in freaking Rutland, Vermont, or whatever, right? Yeah. They have their own life, their own thing. So for me, it's a hybrid. It's, I want to have enough for me. And then if there's extra, they will have that. That's my point of view. And
I keep forgetting the fact that you just brought this up. We don't know what it's going to cost to keep our quality of life.
Nope.
And so I keep forgetting that piece. Is you think about the vacation you want. You want to be able to go buy your groceries or go to dinner, because I like to go out to dinner once in a while, right? I don't want to have to change my ways of that when I'm retired. I want to be able to go on family vacations and stuff. But what if my health goes down? I don't want anybody having to take care of me either. Right. But I never even think about that. I have never even thought about that. Like, what would I do?
Well, let me sell you a long-term care insurance policy, Lorna.
She's on it.
Here's the policy you need, honey, because we know you're going to have trouble because you don't stop doing anything.
Well, I have 6, between us, we have 6 kids. So I'm like, dude, there has to be one that will take care of us.
Right?
Out of 6,
like, that's why I had you all know.
Right?
But if you have one or none,
I know
your odds are a little, sorry,
I get
long-term care.
Yeah.
But I get your point. It's, and I talk to a lot of single, divorced, widowed women, and they don't have big families. And they're like, oh, I joined this friend network. We're supposed to help each other. I got sick. No one's calling me. Like, what do I do? I'm all alone. And my heart aches because I'm surrounded by family and friends and kids. And I have 2 girls, thankfully. My son, I think, would take care of me too. But I don't want to burden them. No. Even if they want to do it,
right.
I don't want to burden them with caring for me. So that's my number one priority, is to make sure I have healthcare covered. Because I know everything else is going to be fine.
Right.
But healthcare is that big, and healthcare costs are inflating. Like Medicare, the cost of Medicare is inflating like twice the rate of Social Security. Like, you get increases for Social Security, but Medicare is going up. So it cancels out.
So let me ask something. So, and you might not even know this. This might have to be an accountant or something. I don't know, these crazy questions. So, like, if you have to get care, so say I have to go into a facility, and I own a property.
Yep. You can do a trust.
Okay, because you know what I'm going to ask is, like, the state takes it? Is it?
Yeah, I mean, so I actually went through this with my mom a few years ago because she needed assisted living, nursing home care, and I was just like kind of unprepared for the details of it. Like, I knew conceptually about it because we talked to people about it. She didn't have long-term care policy. She was a teacher. Her situation was she had a great pension as a teacher. Very, she
take care for retirement.
Yeah, she was fine, but she made too much to get like Medicaid. But she didn't really make enough for assisted living.
Yeah.
So I was like, she's falling in the cracks.
Now, are you finding a lot of people in that kind of bucket lately?
Yeah.
And is there a way that you and your company is starting to try and pivot in order to bridge that gap?
It's so, like I said at the outset, your retirement advisor focuses what I would consider mass affluent. And so our goal is to make sure people don't end up in that situation. For people that there are lots of resources. There's like billions of dollars, at least up to this point. There's been a lot of senior services and aid that people just don't know about and they don't take advantage of.
I believe that.
But we have Medicaid for impoverished people. There is Medicaid where, people will draw down their assets so low that they qualify for Medicaid. My mother always said, I don't want to do that because her mother ended up on Medicaid. And she was like, she got moved from the nice section of the assisted living to the not so nice. Now, I don't remember. I was young. I don't remember.
Right.
But, my mom didn't live long enough to outlive her money due to her cancer diagnosis. So I never had to broach that point. She had a couple-year runway, which in and of itself was a little scary. But, my mother would have come live with me. I always would have taken care of her, but she had enough resources that she saved and she had her pension. But it was frustrating, to be kind of not too wealthy, but not, it was,
Because I find that people, when they get to that certain age, I'm going to ask you some statistics in a minute, but, think about aging, they're staying in their homes. People are staying in their homes late. I'm selling properties of people that have been in their homes for a long time and they're 70, 80 years old and they're selling for the first time, right? Yeah. They haven't moved to a different facility or with family. So what are they doing with that money? Because if they're going to benefit from all that money, is it going to help them or hurt them when they need something?
That's where the planning comes in.
Right.
I was actually thinking about that. I ran a number last night actually about baby boomers, the number of baby boomers that are actually staying.
This is what I wanted to ask you.
Right. I think it was like, I want to say like 30%, 36% or something of the homes in the United States are owned by baby boomers. Yes. But like 56%, something like that, are choosing to stay in their homes.
Right.
So I was like, before I read that, I was just like, wow, maybe I should go into real estate. Like there's all these people that are going to be selling.
Come on, sell your house. Right.
What's happening is people are staying in their homes longer, I think. You're in real estate.
Yeah.
But what's happening is, so we have the largest, we're going to be a very old population soon. 10,000 people are turning 65 years old every single day. So that's a lot of people getting older. But what's going to happen is when those people start dying, their homes are going to come available unless their kids say, hey, let's take the parents home. But likely, I think it will be a bump up down the road, right? You and I probably won't benefit from that.
We'll be part of it.
Yeah. But the point is that, for the real estate market, it's trying to figure out how we can get more younger people into homes because the baby boomers are going to be maybe staying put. But that brings up another issue that if you want to stay in your home, because so many people want to stay in their home and they don't want to go to nursing care. They don't want to go to assisted living.
Blame them.
It's expensive to have someone come into your home.
Yeah.
It's expensive and it's scary for them.
Right.
It's the whole emotional part.
Right. Do you want to stay in your home?
Yes.
Right. So I want to stay in my home. So I'm like, okay, I got to do, my two priorities are my health so that I can stay as healthy as long as possible. So that's a big thing that I talk to women about. And also when you're healthy, you can handle stress, money stress, whatever stress, much better. So I always say it's health, wealth, and happiness. Those are the things you have to focus on, men or women. But I talk to women more often through her retirement. But I always say to women that have a little more time to prepare is make sure you have like a health savings account. That's a triple tax-free account. You have to have a high deductible health plan, but it's a way to save for those retirement.
Are you saying
expenses.
HSA?
HSA, health savings account. So important. You got it? Good. Max it out. It's triple tax-free, goes in tax-free, grows tax-free, take it out tax-free. Part of the diversification of your funds. Really important.
I love that.
Well, because women, it's probably $160,000 on average in out-of-pocket healthcare costs. Oh. That does not include long-term care.
Yeah, no.
Mm-hmm. So people want to age in place, which is preparing. But you have to be prepared. And you have to have the money because it's expensive. This lady that I was talking to in New Jersey, she's like, I had a heck of a time dealing with the Blue Cross Blue Shield. I wanted someone to come in, $36 an hour. She said, all the girl does is bathe me and she's gone. Mm-hmm. And she's like a 20-something. She doesn't care. She just bathes me and she's gone. Mm-hmm. And, it was $100 for her to be here.
Well, here's the thing, too. I don't want my family bathing me, right? I mean, I have a son. He doesn't need to bathe me, right? I honestly don't want anyone doing it.
Then he won't bathe you?
And I mean, come on. I mean, it's okay. But, there's a lot of stress on people. He's going to be old and can't pick me up. But I want to ask you, what is the average age that you see people retiring, like literally stop working?
Yeah, so the average retirement age is about 65, and I think it's because that's when you can get Medicare. So you
actually see that? I thought it was less.
I would have thought it was older.
You did, huh?
In my bubble, I hear a lot of, my parents' friends, like, I'll push it a couple more years. The longer you wait, the more you get back, So I would have thought it was older, but it sounds like it's right on the money when they can cash out and just take a break.
I thought it was younger. I thought it was 62.
Now, 62 is when you can take Social Security, but the issue is if you're going to retire at 62 and take Social Security and you're not working and have health coverage, you got a 3-year healthcare gap that you have to cover before Medicare at 65. It's kind of silly that's how the system works. Yeah. So you see people waiting because they can't retire at 62. Now, I actually see some of my friends, and I'm still a Gen Xer. I'm like on that edge. So I'm
not sure what it is. I just know people call me a millennial, and I think I'm on the cusp. I don't even think I'm actually a millennial.
I play the Gen X card. I'm like, I'm Gen X for the rest of my life. But I see people my age that are retiring, which is younger than 65.
Of course.
And I'm like, dude, like, how are you doing that? But I don't want to retire. I mean, I love what I do.
Right.
I'm having fun.
Right.
I mean, I just want the freedom to go play pickleball with Lana.
Yeah.
Go hike or
ski.
do stuff with my friends. So I call it semi-retirement because I don't think until my brain doesn't work, I don't think I will do anything other than what I do. I mean, I might tweak it a little bit, but it's just fun and keeps your brain sharp and stimulated. But so I think more people are semi-retiring. Mm-hmm. So
that makes sense.
Yeah. So I just met up with a woman in Sugarloaf last week. She retired from Fidelity actually at 55. Now at 57, she's doing something else. So she retired.
Right.
And she retired early-ish at 55. Yeah. But she's doing something else.
Right.
Not because financially she has to, but because she got bored.
Yeah.
She's like, what do I do now? Right. And that's the issue. Like people are like, I want to retire because my friend retired at 60 and dropped dead at 61. Like you hear that too.
I know you hear that a lot.
Right?
We hear that our classmates, you hear something, you say, oh my goodness, like life is so short. But I have to say, Lynn, I agree with you. Some people can retire because they are burnt out, bored, whatever, right? That is one severe. And I agree with that retirement only because of health. Right. 100%.
100%.
But then I also agree on you and I thinking of like you just scale back or you find something within your industry that you really can thrive and enjoy.
Right.
So you're still not retired, and it's so funny, people say, well, you'll never retire. Well, it is a retirement because it's a retirement of going full-fledged, or you're at this spot where you got a different angle within your
lifestyle.
Yes, right? Yeah. Because we don't want to stop doing, but you realize when it's starting to take away from your lifestyle, then you're going to back away. So I think exactly what you're saying, semi-retired. It's not like where my dad, it took him 3 times to retire. He was in his 70s when he finally retired. Like, Dad, no, you don't have to go back to work. And he's like, no. And then he'll stay home for a couple of weeks. I'm going back. But I also think people can take a year off. 100%. We're seeing people take
sabbatical. Yeah.
They take a sabbatical. They take a year off. I know an attorney friend of mine took a year off, came back, jumped right back in and started working again. I think that is all about your planning.
Yeah.
So whether you're in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, I want to look, I'm seeing more people at my age even taking 3 weeks to 3 months and still working.
Yeah.
But they have the plan in place where it just gives them that ease of like still enjoying their life.
Yeah. You don't feel like that ball and chain. Remote work has changed the nature too.
Very true.
So I do encourage people, if they think they will need to work or want to work, because continuing to earn money in those traditional years and not pulling all of what you need from your retirement savings, that's a huge boost. So I do encourage people that if they feel inclined to do any kind of work, it's a good thing for a lot of different reasons, but to try it out before you get to retirement. Figure out what it is you want to do, maybe something that you do differently, or pivot, or take your expertise and do consulting. Women especially are more embracing this idea of this is a new retirement. This is her retirement. This isn't my grandmother's or my grandfather's retirement. Retirement is really changing. Some people want to get rid of the word. I actually don't have a problem with the word because it means freedom to a lot of people. It means, and if you have the financial means, it can mean, financial freedom, but it also gives you freedom to choose how you want to spend your time.
Yeah.
Because as you get older, you appreciate time a lot more. And I think people are like, damn, why am I sitting in this office each and every day when I could be out doing more fun, freedom, freedom releasing things. Yeah. Stress free. I mean, stress is horrible. People are just, especially in this country, so flippin' stressed, and it's a killer.
Share before we wrap up. Yeah. Share your plan that you put out there that I saw. I'm going to let you put a little plug in.
Yeah.
But share that so that if people want, women want to, men too. You said it could be either one.
Yeah, I have both. So the advisory practice is Your Retirement Advisor in Leominster, and that's where we do full license fiduciary. You want a financial plan, great. Reach out. But for my platform, Her Retirement, I offer a website, herretirement.com, where my goal is to help women of all ages get prepared, educated about all of these health, wealth, and happiness issues. And I have what's called a retirement readiness quiz. So you can take it. It's a 25-question quiz.
That.
Yeah.
We'll need a link to that.
You take the quiz, and then it generates through the wonderful technology of AI. It generates a report that's customized to you and gives you your score, and tells you how ready the software thinks you are for retirement, and then gives you a whole bunch of next steps to better prepare. It's all about being prepared. And then it's all about getting her done. That's my favorite expression. I gave my girls hats when they went off to college that said, get her done. And they're like, we won't be wearing these.
But thank you.
Because I say it all the time. I got sweatshirts, get her done, get her done.
Yes.
Because I just want more women to, it's one thing to get educated, to listen to a podcast, but it's another thing to go freaking do it. Like, stop talking about it. Yeah. Like, get a plan and follow the plan. Get her done.
This was so helpful.
Yes.
I always learn something from these podcasts. I think it's exciting. And I think that people can find you where? Just remind us where we can find you.
Yeah, you can go to www.yourretirementadvisor.com. You can go check out that website, or you can go to herretirement.com.
Yep.
Check me out there. And the most important thing that people can do is I always say, don't let friends and family retire broke. So pass it on. Like, women don't, 100%. Specifically women in this case, sorry guys, but women don't talk about this enough. They don't talk about money.
No.
Right. Men don't talk about it sometimes for other reasons, because sometimes they think they're smarter and, they know everything. But women, we need to talk about it because we're willing to ask for directions. Like, men don't want to ask for directions.
No, I know.
We want to ask for directions, and we can talk to our friends. Yes. So I'm like, talk about this more, ladies.
And we're great multitaskers. So we can get it done.
And we are better investors. It's proven if we take the initiative to invest, we are better than men at investing.
There we go.
Proven.
You heard it from the source.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, ladies. This is awesome.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us on our latest week's segment.
Yes.
If you liked it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and if there's anything that you'd like to see in the next segment, leave a comment below.
Yes.
Thanks
and you
again.
can find Ivana or myself at Coldwell Banker in Leominster. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks, ladies.
Awesome.